You've probably been told you need muscle memory to learn guitar, and you do. The problem is, it's not memory and it's not your muscles. Muscle memory is actually something called motor learning, and once you understand how it actually works, it explains almost everything that's ever frustrated you on this instrument. Why you can play something perfectly alone and then fall apart as soon as someone's watching. When you can practice something for hours, but it still doesn't feel quite right. And why an hour of practice can leave you worse than 10 minutes of focused effort. Why your fingers forget a chord you've played thousands of times. And I learned all this the hard way in front of a room filled with people. It happened like this. I was a sophomore in college. It was my second year of music school, and I just switched from upright bass to guitar. And all of the music majors rented out a local coffee shop to play a show together at the beginning of the year to kind of celebrate. And we all put bands together and we worked up some songs, and I practiced. I knew I needed extra time to learn these songs because I was new to guitar, so I put in the work, and I knew those songs cold. Then the day of the show comes and I get up there and there are 5 times as many people packed into this little coffee shop as any of us expected. I guess there was nothing else to do on campus that night. But my heart was racing, my breath was shallow, my mouth went dry. I could barely introduce the band. And when it came time to play, I choked. These songs that I could play in my sleep were gone. So what happened? My hands didn't change between the dorm room and the stage at the coffee shop. Stick around, because at the end of this video, you'll know exactly what happened to me and what happens to you. And I'll give you the exercise I started doing that week to make sure this never happened again. So to understand what happened to me at that show, and more importantly, what happens to you when you're struggling to make progress on guitar, we need to dive into what muscle memory actually is. And it's not about building muscle. If you stretch out your hand and let it relax and your fingers curl in, that's about enough pressure to play a chord, to play a note on a properly set up instrument. So we're not trying to build muscle, and it's not about creating a better memory, right? If you can close your eyes and you can think about your favorite song and mentally hear it, you already have a good enough musical memory to learn to play the guitar. And if you think about it, when you think about learning a chord, it doesn't take long until you go, okay, I know where my fingers go. Here's the thing though, muscle memory is really something called motor learning. It's all about your brain building a signal path to your fingers. And each finger needs its own connection to your brain. Each needs its own wire to get a signal to know exactly what to do. If you've been playing guitar for more than 8 minutes, you've had this experience. You put your fingers down, you play a chord, and you think, I'm gonna lift up my middle finger to move to the next chord, and another finger lifts up. Fixing this is what motor learning is all about. I'll share at the end of the video the exact exercise I did to get my chords to land all at once, but this exercise I'm going to show you right now, I've been doing for years as a bass player, and is the prerequisite to that exercise working. I call it the spider. Different people call it different things, but what we do is we set our index finger on 5th fret of the thinnest string, then we put our middle on 6th, ring on 7th, and our pinky would go on 8th fret. Now, I don't have a pinky, but you probably do. So you want all 4 fingers in a line, pinky on 8th fret. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave all our fingers down except one. We're gonna lift up our index finger and we're gonna move it to the next string. Then leaving all the other fingers down, we're gonna lift up our middle and move it to the next string. Now, what I want you to see is when we leave 3 fingers down and move 1, our brain is sending a signal to all 4 fingers. 3 fingers get the easy signal, stay put, and one of them gets the more difficult signal, move. Then we're going to do the same thing. The other fingers stay put and our ring finger moves, and then your pinky would move, and we would just keep crawling up the guitar neck like this, one finger moving 1 string at a time until we get all the way to the thickest string. And again, this is building that control. So your brain starts to see your fingers as individual things instead of just part of your whole hand. Now, here's where somebody says, but Jake, I have the muscle memory. I play it fine at home or in the practice room or by myself. But then someone's watching and it falls apart. Yeah, that was me at that coffee shop. And here's what's really going on. When you make a chord, your brain can process it one of 2 different ways. It can treat it as 3 or 4 separate pieces of information. What string I'm on, what finger goes where. When you make a chord, your brain can process it one of 2 ways. I can treat it as 4, 5, or more separate pieces of information. This finger goes on this fret of this string here. This finger goes on this string, but this fret, and on and on. That's a conscious effort. That's thinking, and that takes up mental bandwidth. Or it can treat the whole chord as one thing, one signal, and all your fingers lay down together. Now for me, coming from playing bass where it's one finger at a time most of the time, my brain was still processing every chord piece by piece by piece by piece. So playing those songs took every ounce of my attention. And when the nerves showed up, there was no room left for my brain to do both, and something had to give. So choking isn't you magically forgetting something you knew really well. It's chords that are individual bits of information instead of one thing. Now, the way we solve this isn't just running through the same thing over and over again. That's what I did, and that's what you've probably been doing. Instead, we need to find a way to get our brain to turn those multiple bits of information into one thing. Now, I'm going to give you the exact exercise I started doing that week in just a second, but real quick, if you're ready to learn your first full song with me for free inside my course and community, join me at school.com/guitar. I'll leave a link in the description. All right, here it is. So how do we get our brain to quickly see each chord as one thing instead of a bunch of separate bits of information? Easy, we slow down. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Speed comes as a byproduct of accuracy, but we need to slow down in a very particular way. What we're going to do is we're going to intentionally target each finger on a chord change. I'm going to walk you through this exercise exactly how I do it and how I teach my students to do it to this day. We're going to do a G chord going to a C chord. And let's say hypothetically in the song that we're working on, we're struggling to land that C chord, and we kind of lay each finger down one at a time. We kind of roll onto it or, roll off of it. That's our tricky spot. Going from G, landing on our C. So how are we going to practice it? The first thing is we're going to slow it down, and we are going to use target fingers strategically. Now, really quick review. If you don't know what a target finger is, it's when I start on a G chord, if I'm going to a C, I want to pick one finger to target and lay down first, maybe my index finger. I get that in place, and then I start to lay the rest of the chord down. Now, this is how tons of guitar teachers teach learning chord changes, and this is a great way to do it. It's what I do too. We talked about building that muscle memory, that motor learning. So what we need to do is we need to initially start with one finger that we're targeting. But if we keep doing that, hoping to speed up, it's going to take a really long time. Instead, what we want to do is we want to target multiple fingers. So I'm starting with my index. Then, after I do, say, maybe a minute or two of practicing landing my index finger first, I'm going to practice landing my ring finger first. And then I might practice landing my middle finger first. A lot of times doing just the first two examples, maybe that third one, are going to be enough to get most chords under our fingers. But for a lot of us, we're going to have some that are stubborn. A lot of times our middle and ring fingers are really hard to get an individual signal to. The reason being is they actually share a tendon. So I don't have a pinky, but you probably do. And your pinky has a dedicated tendon. Your index finger has a dedicated tendon. Your thumb does. Your middle and your ring finger has a tendon that splits off in the middle of the back of your wrist. So your brain has trouble, especially at the beginning, distinguishing between the two of them. So what we can often do is we can target two fingers at the same time, separating our middle and ring fingers. So I might target my index and middle and then lay down my ring. Or my index and ring, and then lay down my middle. The idea here is we're getting our brain to make very intentional connections with each finger and then multiple fingers. And the more we do this, the quicker it's going to get until we can just set that chord down all at once. And once your brain takes that chord and makes it one thing that you can set down instantly, we move on to another change to practice.